I think being rich is the least sexy part about entrepreneurship. If you're getting into it to be rich, stop what you're doing. You've made a terrible mistake. You're going the wrong way.
Today, we have another exciting installment to Real Jobs, guys. I hope you brought your pen and paper because today we have another guy you're going to want to pay close attention to. Today, we have Paul Barrett. He is an auto repair store owner. He also runs a YouTube channel, Deutsche Auto Parts, a channel all about VW and Audi car repair. And he also has an e-commerce store, Shop DAP, where he sells Audi and VW car parts. Sorry, I butchered that a little bit, guys. I'm doing the live read right now. Paul, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I discovered your content. I don't, as for usual YouTube rabbit holes that happen. Sure. And since then, obviously I knew a lot of these people existed in the world, but I didn't really know how prevalent it was. Obviously there's a lot of content you've done around it that covered it, but I also now have the joy of being served ads with these people nonstop since I've discovered your content. So thanks for that. Along with now discovering there's a great opportunity to make money. And so, I think I'm going to design a course with my three tips for making $10K a month with 8 minutes of work. Coming soon.
I hit you with the old Zilla curse, man. I've got to tell you that has happened to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for everyone it happens to. They watch one of my videos and at first they all say, Steven, I don't know if this is as big of a deal as you say it is, but it's always a self-fulfilling prophecy because then they get served all the ads and then they realize, a month later that, oh, this is a big problem. So I really appreciate you, you reaching out to me and telling me that you wanted to, just really share with people a better way. Obviously, I have a big passion for showing people different job paths they can go down. A lot of people looking for the fake gurus, looking at the Lambo. The reason they're looking for that is they look at college, they don't see it as a viable option. Maybe it's for financial reasons. Maybe it's just because they're not interested in that. What I find interesting about you is in our initial email, you told me, hey, I'm a college dropout. I've done this long climb in a job path that most people don't know is really like a long-term career, or they don't understand it as a long-term career. So can you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are now? Obviously, you're a business owner now. You're an e-commerce owner. You're all these things, but you didn't start out that way.
Yeah. So I'm just turned 37. So I'm a little bit older than you, and more so than people here now, because, when I was that age, and I think it's still true now a little bit, but it's got less of a stigma. If you didn't go to college, especially I grew up in Northeast Jersey, middle class, if you don't go to college, you were a loser. That was just period. You weren't going to make it in life. That was the path they funneled you down. So, for that reason, obviously I went to college, didn't feel like it was for me. I hated school. It was
What'd
not
you go
kind
for?
of my thing. Psychology. Also, the whole need to have a doctorate to ever actually do anything with psychology, whatever, all that stuff. Which obviously now that may be a path for marketing, because is kind of something I like. But after I dropped out of school because I just didn't go to class because I hated it, it was bullshit, whatever. Kind of was looking for something to do, figure out what direction to go in. And I liked cars. I had no experience with cars. It's not like I'm not from a family that my parents didn't have cars, didn't work on cars, and do all that stuff in that way. So, but I liked them. And so I went down the path of looking at an automotive tech school. Now, I think I've seen people cover in the past around tech schools. Maybe we can touch more on this later. So I went to a tech school, went through that process, graduated. During the time that I went to tech school, I got a job at a dealership with the premise that, hey, I'm going to school for automotive. I'd like to, get a job here doing that, very entry level-ish type situation to get my foot in the door, and then graduated at school. Now, after something that most people don't know, tech schools like that, they have a lot of relationships with manufacturer programs. So that's, again, on the automotive side. with manufacturers direct. So they have programs you can go through different specific manufacturer direct, Ford, Nissan, Mercedes, BMW, VW, Audi. Well, all of these brands all have connections with these tech schools that you can, if you're capable of meeting the standards required, you can go to them afterwards. So that's what I did. Went to a Volkswagen specific training school. Part of the premise when you get out of those schools is that you have to work at a dealership and sign a contract within a certain period of time. Otherwise, you owe them a bunch of money.
The
VW as a
school or
VW
whatever.
as the training program itself, because it's a free program which will be waived. It's essentially funded by the people who hire you, essentially.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a good setup. They discontinued it because there's a lot of problems with non on the job training. Has some, it's kind of a tough, and that's what, again, we'll touch more on that later. But went through that program. I'm from Northeast Jersey. My parents had since moved down to the Charlotte area. Wasn't a lot of opportunities up in the Northeast Jersey area. Complicated reasons. Most of the dealerships seemed like there's such a saturated market. They didn't need to hire and have the expensive hire coming from out through that program. So I found a job in Charlotte and worked as an automotive tech for about 3 years. Went into the parts department after that because I kind of realized that, hey, this isn't something I want to do long term. With the premise of that being a potential management opportunity for me. 8 months later, I got that management opportunity and then went through that, built an e-commerce program at that dealership for them, and then eventually spun off my own to start my e-commerce brand.
You started realizing that the e-commerce thing maybe could be, you're building them a business. You might want to do it yourself.
Right. And so I have a business partner who I had a relationship with because of my previous position. And then it was kind of one of those things where I was looking for the next step for me. And it kind of made sense where I was already building a business essentially for somebody else. Why not do it for myself?
Why not? Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think one thing we should say here is that by the time you're building an e-commerce business, you're in a niche that you sort of have some skill or understanding of, right? That gives you leverage.
Right. So, e-commerce obviously is so saturated with so much shit that it's hard to break through.
That's like the understatement of the year.
Right. Well, and it's shit as in actual shit, but also just people in general. There's a lot of people in e-commerce, right?
Right.
Good and bad brands.
For sure.
And so it's hard to break through the noise. And the thing that was a differentiator for us, not necessarily in the beginning, but once we kind of matured a little bit where I kind of recognized opportunities and whatever was YouTube. That's actually how a lot of our customer base found out about us. And it's because of my background in working on cars that I was able to teach people about it. And then that was kind of the thing that gets people into our ecosystem. We have, I don't know, something 140-ish thousand subscribers. But most of our content isn't really intended to get views in mainstream. We have some content like that, but that's not predominantly what we do. Most of it's prescriptive or helpful for specific things.
Yeah, I totally noticed that on your channel. It's like you have this valve needs replacement. Mm-hmm. Here's exactly how you do it. Here's explaining this system in the car. Mm-hmm. That did strike me as like, okay, he's actually trying to contribute to a very specific community here.
Correct. Right.
And then the idea is then they get in your ecosystem of like the e-commerce side as well as, I guess the auto repair store specifically maybe isn't as much the main thing, or
so the shop we started I guess about 2 years ago now, and it was really born out of the idea. I had always kind of considered it was my background. I'd always considered starting a shop at some point, but it became such a demand from people because of the YouTube thing. If you fucking told me that teaching people how to do something on YouTube would make them want to pay me to do the thing for them, I'd be like, there's no way. That doesn't make any sense. That sounds illogical, right?
Yeah.
but what it does is it builds trust for people
Yes.
to feel like they believe in you. And even though, we have the full range of things, who people who believe that we're very small and I'm going to be working on their car, to people who think we're much larger than we are. So uh, obviously, I don't work on people's cars, but the transparency, I think, it kind of helps with a lot of that stuff. Makes people confident in the ability. So the e-commerce was first, and then the shop was really more of a. We had so many people asking. It was like, okay, well, we'll do it. I have the relationships, being in the industry a long time. I knew a lot of guys who who could work with me, who I trust, who I know are good guys, who will take care of our customers the way that I feel like we should.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first things that struck me watching your channel, is that I knew you had a shop, and then I saw you showing people how to do it at home, and I was like, well, this seems to be a self-defeating system here.
You would think
Uh,
it is.
but actually, I think maybe it does build that trust, because I think we talked about stereotypes a little bit ago, about how there's a little bit of a stereotype against people who didn't go to college, although less so as more and more people just don't
Right.
see the math working out, just in terms of, the financial cost of these institutions is just absolutely
Yes.
insane. But on the other hand, there's also, I don't, I don't know if you agree with it, that this is deserved, but there just is sort of this thought out there that people who repair cars, sometimes aren't as honest as maybe they should be.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's like, it's
And
a black box. You guys
well,
know, we don't. And you can tell us, those of us who are not car people. I'm just going to tell y'all all, I'm not a car person. That's a little warning. You can tell me that what is it? The headlight fluid is out or something.
right. Yeah. That I've found this in any industry, and for sure this is true, is that anytime you have an industry where it requires expertise of any kind, you can get fucked. Which I have been so in construction. The building we're in, the facility we're in currently, we went under construction. It was a nightmare. The guy we dealt with was a complete scumbag. I've done with e-commerce, with website development stuff, with coding, same thing. And it really is. You have to put your trust in the people you're working with, that you feel like they're going to be honest with you and do right by you, right?
Right.
And and I do agree that many times there's a lot of people who deserve the bad reputation. This industry, just like any others, is filled with people who potentially are not doing right by people. To me, I think there's plenty of money to be made in any business that you can do right by people, and you're not going to get the immediate return that you would get. It's kind of the sheep mentality, the shear versus skin, right? The shear a sheep many times, skin a sheep,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
That's kind of how I envision most business stuff. Is yes, you might sacrifice the opportunity to upsell somebody or try to force something that you could get somebody to buy, but that doesn't mean you're going to get them to buy it consistently. And to me, that's I prefer, from the way my philosophy in business is, I'm looking for long-term relationships. I'm not going out of business tomorrow, and that's true for customers, employees, everything.
I think that's such a healthy way to look at business anyways, which is, so many people try to short-term win the game, that they forget that the long game matters, your reputation matters,
Right.
and it will catch up with you, even as much as you try to let marketing and whatever wash away the sins of yore. I think eventually people do find out, like, sort of like, oh, you're this kind of a guy, or you're this
Mm-hmm.
kind of a guy. And it does catch up with you, especially sort of when you have as big of a web presence as you do. You get a reputation for dealing fairly. So walk me through this. Did you know when you got started, as sort of, look, you dropped out, you don't like school, you're lost. I think that's the place where a lot of people are right now. People are scared. It's coronavirus, especially now. People are thinking, oh man, do I got to hustle from home? Do I got to start my little e-commerce store? Do I pay some idiot $2,000 to teach me how to do this? Whatever. You have an e-commerce business though, successfully. So what separates a guy like you, legitimate business? That's your main, you said, I think that's your main business, where you make
E-commerce,
a
yeah.
majority of your revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, from some, 19-year-old thinking that he's going to arbitrage yo-yos on Alibaba to America? Like what talk to me. What
What's
do
the
people
difference?
need what do people need to know about building real skills and
So the biggest problem I have, and I think it's going to be kind of a weird tangent, but I think a lot of the crossover of the type of people we're looking at and talking about, they cross over with somebody who is a Gary Vee fan, which I like Gary Vee. I actually like his content, but I think the problem with his content that is just like anything, uh, is open to interpretation, right? So if you are the same way you get someone with religion who goes and becomes a terrorist versus is a peaceful loving person, they're both reading the same book but they've interpreted it in a way that's drastically different, right?
sure. Yeah.
And I think his content also can fall along the same line, which is a 19-year-old kid, he thinks they're telling him to get started and try to go hustle. And I think if it was a one-on-one situation and he was asking them questions, he actually wouldn't be saying that. He would probably be saying, go get some fucking skills. You don't know shit and you don't know how to do anything. What are you going to be a business about?
Yeah, I think something people miss is that with expertise, you build barriers to entry to competition. The problem with
Yeah.
hustling and
Right.
just being a hustler all the time is that you might find a cool opportunity, but if it requires no skills to do, you're going to
Race to
be
the bottom.
competed into oblivion. Yeah, it's a race to the bottom of zero profit margin, and then everyone's in the same boat. So I think one thing that is worth thinking about for people is that you need expertise or skills or a set of skills that set you apart from your competition so that it's not just like one person can come in and take away your business. In your case, that differentiating factor is your experience in the business. When people come to, your YouTube channel versus somebody's YouTube channel with no experience, there's just some things the other person can't tell them to do.
Yeah, it's certainly it's that and many things, right? So it is that it's for sure having a skill to be able to do something and be the differentiator. Otherwise, obviously, whoever's willing to take the least is the person who's going to get the particular sale that day, right? So brand sales versus branding, right? The thing that I think, which is the piece of the puzzle that actually puts it all together, is our YouTube channel, especially if you go back to our first video, it's a nightmare. It's a shit show. I'm not somebody now, many years later, after creating content, I am somebody who's presentable in content. But in the beginning, I was not an extrovert who was capable of talking, and I was terrible on camera, had no presence. I didn't understand it. I was not, brevity was not something that I was good at. Just like there's a lot, there's so many pieces to it that are problems.
Sure.
That learning that skill, even just the ability to be out there, and not to mention the absorbing criticism, which obviously at a very young age, I think people aren't really equipped for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think I don't think I could at 19 be creating content and having people just shit all over you every day and just absorb it like it doesn't actually matter. Like
Yeah.
when you're older, I would say, in your late 20s probably is when you start to be able to absorb stuff like that and have it not actually affect you. Although, even though I'm sure, for just like me, just like you, I would imagine sometimes you get affected by it as well. Part of the deal, right?
Yeah. And also, two things affect you when you're a young creator. One, comments that affect you are comments that ring slightly true.
Yes.
And that really hurts when you don't really know who you are. And so a lot of things can ring true. You're like, well, maybe I am just a terrible creator. Eventually you build a self-confidence that's like pretty resilient because you're like, no, I'm not those things. But then they can still sting you with the thing that's true. Then they,
oh yeah, for sure.
And you're like, yeah, good point.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the person who gets called fat, who's just like a slightly bit overweight, they're way more affected than someone who's excessively overweight. It's way more
Yeah.
just a twisting of the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that reason, for me, that's actually for us what really connected it was, yes, e-commerce, having the expertise was just, to me, it's the requirement just to even start, right? I don't even think, if you wanted to try to, I could give somebody the roadmap to literally everything I've ever accomplished. If you don't have the expertise I have, zero chance you're going to accomplish it. And I feel like that's the most meaningful part of the entire equation is having an expertise, knowing what you're doing, whether it be, you know, just like obviously me on the automotive side, or if you're somebody who is on the electrician, plumber, whatever, you know, there's plenty of different skills, and frankly, it probably applies to everything.
Yeah, I want to maybe ask you about one quality that I've noticed that a lot of successful people have in common. I don't know if this will ring true for you, but this is something that I always think about when I think of, sorry, I'm trying to put my phone on silent.
No, you're good.
I think about when thinking about, building skills and success is you need persistence and a willingness to just kind of endure not succeeding in order to succeed. So when I was starting out on YouTube, I ran a channel even before Coffee Break, which is now not like I'm doing CoffeeZilla almost more than I'm doing Coffee Break, but I've just done a lot of different things on YouTube before I understood how to get on camera, how to talk to somebody, how to interview, how to sort of have like a podcast we're doing, how to pump out as much content as I'm now able to put out. And that's a skill that I've developed over time. But if I didn't have persistence to do that, and I was always kind of jumping
there.
jumping around to the next thing. That's something I worry about. Is like, one thing I want to show with Real Jobs, the series, is that you can make a career out of almost anything, but you have to just stick with it. I mean, something I notice is I'll see in my comment section sort of the whole ecosystem of the victims of these people, right? And they'll say, well, yesterday I tried SMMA and today I'm trying, e-commerce, and tomorrow I'll be trying, Facebook ads, and the day after that I'll be trying YouTube automation. And one problem is no one's told them that the whole thing is that you're going to fail for the first maybe long time. I mean, there's no window of failure, but there's just, and that's maybe the scariest part. There's just this undetermined window of failure that you're almost guaranteed to fail at something until you've either built up the experience or you've built up the knowledge base, or just you learn from failures that eventually you do figure out how to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I think that certainly is a problem with the the fly by night get rich idea of all of these guys, what they're selling. For me, I think it's kind of a weird tangent on this one, but I think the thing that taught me about the persistence and learning things is I have kind of an obsessive personality in terms of just if I'm into something, I'm going all the way into it.
Sure.
And so I got into poker when I was maybe in my early 20s. And I eventually was doing it as a supplement to income.
Oh, wow.
But you have, I got my ass handed to me and lost plenty of money during the process of doing that before you figure out. But to be successful at it, you need to be a student of the game, which is just like being a student of business or content creation or whatever, is that if you're not a student of learning how to get better at content, which may include watching somebody else's content, trying to pick out the good pieces of it or whatever, same thing with anything, is it's hard to learn that, how do I get better at something, right? Because I think that is a skill that you're pointing to that isn't something that we're taught, and certainly school doesn't help you get anywhere with that, because school is so much of the memorize and regurgitate nonsense.
Correct.
That you never actually earn any skills that especially now, I don't know about your area, but where I grew up, they had removed all trades from high school altogether.
Yeah, no, I mean, in my high school, there was no talk of trades. It was all college prep. We're going to go get you ready for college. And yeah, I think what is so underappreciated about school is just how much a student can get by with the appearance of learning without actually
learning anything.
developing. Yeah. And like learning the meta skill, which is supposed to be taught the whole time, which is how to learn. Right. One of the most valuable skills I ever picked up had nothing to do with school. I just taught myself piano. And through the process of teaching myself that over like, I don't know, I've been playing for like 13 years now. You just learned that there's no substitute for putting in hours and very directed, intentional learning. There's no way you're going to watch. It's actually like why I hate the very idea of these sort of like watch 6 weeks of videos and you're going to be, successful. It's like videos. It's such a passive medium to begin with.
Yes.
It's like, I would almost believe you more if you like wrote a book, but instead you're like making people watch like 6 weeks of videos and they're supposed to be an expert on like Shopify. It's like, no, I don't know that stuff. And then they have the audacity to promise that, yeah, you're just going to be just like me. 6 million in 2 months or whatever. Like, it's absolutely asinine. So when you think about young people, do you have kids, by the way?
Yeah, I have 3.
Okay. So when you think about them, I mean, what do you think about like when they're starting out work, they're getting started? What is the biggest thing you're looking for? I guess both an employee and what you're trying to give to your like kids in terms of, we both agree that there's a problem in education. What's sort of the answer here?
Oh God, the education one. That's such a
Sorry, that's too
question.
big of a question.
Yeah. First of all, I don't even know if I have anything that's even remotely prescriptive there. Mostly probably only criticisms that I think aren't working, but
we all have criticisms. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. In terms of employees, for me, what I generally look for is I generally hire for people who attitude and aptitude probably are my 2 biggest things. Unless I'm looking for something specific for, when it comes to being an automotive technician, if I'm hiring for that, it's a little bit different because that is a job that requires you to walk in the door and have a skill. If I'm hiring for a position that requires a skilled position, right? Like, so there's a thing in the automotive technician world, basically A, B, and C level tech. Would be kind of a top level tech. They do like extremely heavy diagnostic. They're capable of a lot more things. B level is more kind of someone who can do most jobs that you would ever need them to do, but they're not very advanced as far as their diagnostic abilities. And then C is kind of just your kind of entry level guy who can do very, very basic stuff. So depending on if you're hiring an A level tech, you kind of have to be hiring for skill set along with it.
Sure.
The other 2, more attitude than anything, because like anything, and I think it's true for a lot of potential blue collar jobs, is there can be attitude issues of people who gain bad habits along the way. So something that people don't know, and this is something that you mentioned something earlier that made me think of it, is the incentive of people to be dishonest. And it's the reason why in the automotive repair space people have an incentive to be dishonest is because there's a thing called flat rate. Now, most people don't know what this is, but it's standard across the entire US. Every shop you ever go to, they work on your car, they pay like this. The technician gets paid by the specific job he's doing. Let's say brakes on your car and it's an hour and a half. That job pays an hour and a half. If he takes 2 hours to do it, he still gets paid an hour and a half regardless. If he takes 6 hours to do it, he still gets an hour and a half, or he takes a half hour to do it, he gets paid an hour and a half. So because of that, it creates a false incentive for people, or a bad incentive to do dishonest things. Cut corners. Cut corners is obviously the big one, but also then just be blatantly dishonest in some places.
So this can happen at the tech level. I always assumed sort of it was like a culture at the shop, but that actually can just be like one bad tech can be ripping off people
100%
underneath the nose of the whole business. So does that mean that there's a lot of autonomy there with the techs?
A lot more autonomy than probably most people know. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
yeah.
There's a thing called book time. So there is a guide to tell you how much jobs should pay. So it's not completely just fly by the seat of your pants. There's a rough range that things should be paying, but that doesn't mean you're being an honest person and not cutting a corner you shouldn't cut. As somebody who we don't see too often stuff happen that's like blatantly egregious, but we see sometimes people butcher the shit out of people's cars and cost them a lot of money. Like it happens. It's not common, but it happens. And when it happens, it's pretty nasty because you pay. Not only did you pay for somebody to fuck you, you got to pay again to fix it.
To fix it. Right,
Right.
right, right. And do they say, I mean, do a lot of shops say, oh, we found this new problem, when in reality it was a problem that they had created?
That's possible. I mean, certainly, that is, even as a business that's honest, that's a challenge that we face, is that if we do get in somewhere and find something that we didn't expect, now there's always that veil of, are they being honest with me or are they not being honest with me? Now, I know because of the guys who work with me that I know 100% of the time we're being honest. We're doing the right thing by the customer, but that doesn't mean that that's how they feel.
Right. You still
Right?
feel like you've been kind of
Right. You still
taken for a ride. Let me ask you real quick. Are Lamborghinis good cars? This is sort of a throwaway question.
Not really. No, and not if you want to have a car that's going to be a reasonable. Here's the general rule of thumb. And I've been testing TikTok content, and we do a lot of Instagram stories of stuff that's happening in our shop to do on there. And the most recent video I posted that has somewhere like 100,000 views is people going crazy because it's like this super in-depth job and all this shit needs to come apart to get to something. And that's what people are saying, like, I'm never going to buy one of these cars. And the general rule of thumb is that the more complicated the car you're buying, the more expensive it's going to be to repair. And that's true, especially as you get to be more expensive cars. So just across the board, generally, and that's not always true, but most of the time true, is that super high performance cars, very exotic cars, they're all going to be exceptionally expensive to fix. That doesn't matter if they're American or German or whatever. If you go buy a Hellcat, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like a 700 horsepower, like American made car.
Fast car goes vroom.
Right. Yeah. It's a fast car. They're, I don't know, 80 or 90 grand, I think, probably. It's going to be expensive to fix. Same premise, essentially.
Okay. So Lamborghini, bad car.
Yeah. I mean,
you don't want a Lamborghini as your average person.
Most people buy Lamborghinis and put like 10,000 miles on them. Most people don't know that. They don't.
I didn't know that
drive
either.
them.
Yeah.
They don't drive them for shit. People who own cars like that, because first of all, most people who have Lamborghinis have money. It's not their only car.
Right.
Second of all, it's a heavily depreciating asset, like heavily, especially when you're talking about super exotic cars like that.
Right.
And certain things on those cars require a huge expense to fix, or like as part of general maintenance. So like, some of these cars at 20,000 miles need $30,000 worth of maintenance work.
That's horrible. I couldn't imagine. I would lose my mind. Yeah. I will never get a car like that. I have a Volkswagen Passat, and that is my that I'm gonna drive that into the dirt.
What year?
2018.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Is that when they started getting better? Or are they still?
That's a perfectly good car.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What was the bad year? There were some bad years for Volkswagen.
Right? The early 2000 Passats are, they're the reason why used Passats are cheap, because they're such piles of garbage. Well, they weren't bad cars. They just had a lot of reliability issues as far as like stuff you'd have to fix, and they would beat people into the ground. So they became a car that gets dumped off for cheap.
Got it. Yeah. When I bought it, I knew a lot of people who had like sort of like known those older cars. They're like, don't get a Passat. And I was like, yeah, but I really like the engineering that goes into it. And at this price point, I'm not going to get anything better.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, that's fine. One more car question, and then we'll go back to the world of how you got here, which is Tesla. What do you think? Overhyped, overvalued at 1,000?
Well, multiples I'm not going to touch on, because that's an investing question.
Okay. All right.
I'm not going to, I don't know. Do I think Tesla is a leader? Yes. In terms of battery technology and on the EV car side, yes. They had a lot of QC, like quality control issues with their cars when they were producing them, especially once they got into the Model 3, because it was more like a mass produced car. But I knew there was a bunch of issues. I don't pay super close attention to a lot of that stuff, although more recently I have, because I was planning on starting a podcast about like automotive stuff. But yeah, I think they are certainly obviously the leader in the EV game, and that's certainly the direction the market's heading. Most of the futurists, they think electric cars are going to take over the market much quicker than they actually are going to, but it's certainly where we're headed, and will eat up more market share over the years.
When do you think it's going to become like overtake the market? It's like everyone's going to
In terms of like, let's say more than 50%.
Sure. Yeah.
10 to 20 years probably.
Oh, wow. That is longer than probably even I no knowledge. I'm just intuition. I was going something like 5 to 8, but you think it's going to take, it's just
well, you got to think about the replacement rate. Most people don't buy brand new cars, and you're talking about expensive cars.
Right.
So you think about the replacement rate, and then all of these people have to get rid of their old cars and get new cars and have to choose the more expensive electric option.
See, this is why they pay you the big bucks, Paul.
Well,
this
I don't know about that, but
this level of analysis here. Yeah. Are you going to start a podcast?
Yeah. So I actually started one with a guy who works with me, and part of this setup that we're doing here was intended to do that. A good friend of mine who actually if you want to find more of the automotive technician level for this type of thing, he would be a better interview than me. His name is the Humble Mechanic. He and I are close friends, and he's a YouTuber. So he went from automotive technician full time, and that was his whole career. And then he, a few years back, left to do the YouTube thing full time. So
shout out the Humbled Mechanic.
Yeah. So he and I are probably going to be doing a podcast, more because, most of the content I create, because it's under my business name, I reserve a lot of opinions and feelings about things to myself. So I don't really, I don't really feel free to
let it rip.
Yeah, express myself in a way that I just be honest, mostly because I don't want to offend people, and especially under the brand label, if I say something that they feel offended by, right?
Yeah. But you want the ability to grip it and rip it somewhere.
Right. So
I love it.
Yeah. So that's what we'll be doing. Yeah.
That'll be exciting. If you come up with the name before this goes live, I'll link the podcast.
Yeah. So that podcast already exists. You can see some of the old ones. They were with another guy who isn't him. It's called Cars with Cocktails. So the idea is we get drunk and talk about stuff. That's the premise, at least.
Well, here's the thing. Here's why I like talking to people like you, is that you're so much more complex than people envision when they think of just college dropout win automotive tech. They think one direction. Even with your friend, the Humbled Mechanic, if you go senior level automotive tech, they think, most of the time,
idiot. Yeah.
I even hate saying it because I know it's not true, but that's the stereotype that's out there. Mm-hmm. But these lives are so much more complex, nuanced, interesting than that.
I mean, most of the people that are, I would say, are at any high level of any trade are smart people. They have to be. If you talk about somebody who is a very high level automotive technician, they have to do heavy diagnostic, understand electrical systems, how they function, and then how to diagnose when a problem's happening. See, I know most people are probably not into cars, so they don't know. Most people think you plug in a scan tool and you look at it and it's like, it tells you like, oh, fix this. And it's like, boop, boop, boop. And you're just the monkey like banging with a wrench on shit.
It's terrible. You're describing me. That's what I thought. You plug in the diagnostic tool. Beep,
that's not
beep,
the way
boop.
It works.
Okay.
Yeah. That's not the way it works.
How does it work? How does it tell me?
Essentially, when you have a scan tool in a car, it tells you where the problem is. It's up to you to figure out why the thing that's happening is happening.
Oh, so in other words, you could have some spark plug problem, but the real problem could be something else.
You could have a problem. Example, a misfire in an engine. An engine is obviously the spark plug fires and it makes the engine go, right?
Yeah.
There's a misfire. A misfire could come from a multitude of parts, spark plug being one of them, ignition coils, other things related to that. You could have vacuum leaks. There's a lot of things that can cause misfires. You don't know what that is. So part of the diagnostic process is, okay, you get in it, you look and say, oh, it's misfiring. Okay, why is it doing that? Then you have to go through the steps of figuring out why it's happening.
At this point, I think first of all, that's really interesting. I didn't know there was that kind of level. Although I should have known that because when I was a college student and very poor, I didn't have money to. I got ripped off by an automotive guy actually, and I decided I would never take it back. I had a '96 Corolla. It was 2 years younger than me, and I decided that I was going to repair it. I had a scan tool. It was like the first year that got scans, and it said it was a spark plug issue. That's why I brought it up. And I tried like 3 different things, and the first like 2 weren't actually what it was, even though everyone online on the like forums told me that's what it was. And I was like, I tried to replace it, failed. Eventually, I got it running-ish, but I knew that there was probably parts were going to fall apart eventually, and then I eventually replaced the car. But all this to say, I should know better, but I do have that kind of mentality in my head that there was just like a diagnostic tool and that's just what they used. But okay, so there's thinking there's high level thinking involved. There is understanding mechanical and electrical systems. From your perspective as a business owner, who would you recommend go into this space? Who do you see fulfilled by this type of work? Because, obviously we feature a lot of different jobs and every job is not for everyone. Who is going into this space for?
Well, the challenge that I always see is being the one problem, and this is something that probably a lot of people wouldn't talk about, but I have no problem talking about, is being an automotive technician is probably something that most people would not want to do their entire life. Physical jobs beat you up, regardless of what they are. Right. They are probably good for a while, and especially good to get expertise, but they do also open doors to allow you to go other places. Obviously, I'm a good example of what that is. And while maybe you won't take my exact path, it could be some different version, right? That's probably the one thing that I would say in any blue collar job, this one or others, can be the biggest challenge is people who don't want to do physical work, which there's all variations of that. And depending on the physical work, being in an automotive space, you could go into the automotive space and be what's called a service advisor, which is the person who helps you when you get your car serviced at a shop. And they generally have a decent amount of car knowledge and often go to technicians. A lot of them were like wannabe technicians who kind of just ended up better in the sales customer service side. So, you could go either way with that. Problem solving is certainly a thing that is part of the automotive process of like hey, I like puzzles. I like to solve shit. For that reason, that type of person could go in there, but you have to also be somebody who wants to work with your hands.
I feel like there are probably a lot of young males like that. I mean, a lot of this channel, let's just spill the CoffeeZilla secret. A lot of my viewers are young men because a lot of the people who get scammed are young men. And a lot of them are, they want to work with their hands. They want to do that. And they also like problems, puzzles, things like that. They want to, clearly hack their way to the top with their little get rich quick schemes. But if they could apply that to something more productive, I think that'd be, really valuable for a lot of people. Is there a way to like dip your toes in? Like, the schools?
It's tough. So the schools, I know a lot of community colleges have automotive programs. I legitimately have no idea how good they are. I know they exist. I know they help people get into this industry. I know automotive tech schools are also another path. Now, the one thing that I know that the electrician that you had on said, which he completely said, tech schools are garbage, don't go to them. I feel like a lot of schools are a lot like college in terms of you get out what you put in, right? And you can go to a tech school, and I know because I've been to one, and you can get out and never really have learned anything. You can graduate and not really actually retain any knowledge that allows you to be good. The other thing that I have concerns about with a lot of all school, but tech schools are also fall under this as well, is everybody sells this idea of school as if you leave school and you're ready for the workforce. But the reality is, the thing that nobody tells you is nobody in the workforce respects you because they don't know you don't know shit.
That's so true. Of course. Yeah.
It's a lie. It's the biggest lie that all higher education has ever perpetrated across everyone because nobody tells you, hey, guess what? When you leave, I don't give a shit if it's Harvard. Nobody respects you because you don't know anything. Now, you may be a smart person and capable of tremendous things, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But you don't really have, and there are anomalies that happen and whatever. But for the most part, nobody really thinks that you know anything.
Dropping some facts here. Yeah. Is that just because like most higher education is so generic and so out of touch with industry and like real world stuff? I mean, because you spend 4 years, like, what are you doing?
Oh, I think that's part of it, right? I think partly higher education has that problem. I think they also have a problem of it's kind of like the incentive of you've discovered with a lot of these guys is they have no problem promising you something that you're going to guarantee to make 10 grand a month. Now, the schools sell you, it's more of a soft sell that they tell you, hey, you're going to get a job and that job is average pay is this. And it's like,
Sure.
yeah, that after like 7 years in the industry, you'll make that.
Yeah.
Not out of college.
Yeah. A lot of, right.
And that's the thing that people, I think, are always, I think everybody thinks that, just like automotive technicians can make upwards of 6 figures, but you ain't making that year 2.
One thing we've got to do in the conversation around jobs and careers, I feel like, is bring down the temperature of the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
People have such high expectations as 18-year-olds. I feel like we've given people this sort of Instagram life of fast cars, whatever, or you have no experience, but you've got some 6-figure job, blah, blah, blah. How do we take that down? Because it does feel like what gets views is selling more of the same.
Yeah.
Right. That's like the most frustrating part for me is that I know that these videos, although they're much more realistic and honest with people, a lot of people have already clicked off and gone to,
right. They're going to get less views for sure.
The latest upload of how to make 8 figures, baby, in a month.
Mm-hmm. So to me, part of the problem is human nature, right? Is a lot of these things are being these people are capitalizing on human nature. And I can tell you because I don't know about you, but myself. So I remember wanting to, I don't even think for me, I don't remember feeling like it was about money. I remember feeling like it was about being somebody of merit that people respected. I think I don't know because I can't really articulate it. And social media was just not really even a thing when I was that age yet. But I remember feeling like that's what I was looking for. I remember I grew up in a very middle class upbringing. My town was kind of middle, and then some people were upper middle. But I had a long-term relationship with a girl who was from a upper middle and very upper class area and town where people she grew up with. And I remember feeling like being around those people that it was like, I need to get my shit together. Like I got to get to fucking work, and a college dropout, that shit ain't going to cut it. Yeah. I mean, that's just the truth, like when you're around people who have that level, now it brings you, first of all, I think it makes you realize what's possible, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But it also kind of incentivizes you to say, hey, you can be that, but you're not going to do it doing this. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I think a lot of people have, and it's just not sexy, is that yes, the skill thing, but also if you really want to do, for example, I'm sure what you do, I know what it takes to make a YouTube channel successful. I know what it takes to make businesses successful. That requires an amount of commitment and a level of commitment. That means that like I had no, so I don't really have a lot of friends anyway, but I once you get old, that kind of goes away. But I had no social life. I gave that up to spend my late nights editing video in the beginning. Now I have a full-time videographer who works for me, but in the beginning, I was editing every video while running a business, while doing all this stuff and acquiring all those skills in those additional hours instead of doing that. So I think always in any of these things, your actions have to match your ambition. Um,
Oh,
and
that's good.
and your ambition, depending on how high it is, you have to recognize how patient you need to be depending on what level you want to get at, right? Too many people watch the fucking Social Network and they want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, and just realize that that's one guy. That's one guy. Like, he's obviously extremely talented, but he kind of captured lightning in a bottle, and that was an anomaly one time. If Mark Zuckerberg came out
lucky.
today,
yeah,
he wouldn't be Mark Zuckerberg. It was just the right time, right place.
There are hundreds of thousands, well, not hundreds of thousands. There are probably hundreds or thousands of Zuckerbergs working for Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes.
I mean, like, people just as smart as him, just as ambitious, going to a lot of the same schools.
Right.
They tried their startup, didn't work, so they went and worked for Facebook or whatever. It's no, that happens all the time. Luck is such a big factor. I do agree that there is something about like seeing possibility that helps enlarge your perspective. I think it's important to realize that you can do more. I guess what gets me is that I don't want to know that I can do more from a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Oh, fuck 20-year-olds telling me how to do anything. That's, I don't, unless and
I say that as a 20-year-old. But I would never say like, hey guys, look at me, I've figured it out. Like, because I know that cannot be true.
I can tell you this is, even for me now that I'm in my late 30s, I don't know everything. Like, I know a lot more now than I did 10 years ago. But, when you're young, you have no nuance to your perspectives. You just don't know that much. You think you know and have a very black and white version of what the world is, when that's just not. Everything's way more gray and in the middle than you think. It's, I don't know. I think that's just part of being young, though. It's part of the discovery of learning things. I just hate when I see these people who get their head beat in. Some of these guys, $2,000, which is a huge deal if you're going into debt on credit cards for somebody who doesn't really have an income. One guy I thought you interviewed who worked at a gas station, he was saving up, or maybe it was just a story that someone told it, but he spent $2,000 and he worked at a gas station. It's like, that's a huge amount of money for somebody like that. And to have somebody flush it down the toilet, obviously it's terrible. Now, how do you save that person from their self, essentially, is the question, right?
And their own greed and their own like feeling of, that it's possible for them. It's also their lack of experience. I don't think it's just greed. It's just a lack of understanding how things work.
To me, I think it's an urgency for success and being somebody of merit, that they want to be, especially, let's be honest, if you're not a super good looking guy and things aren't, great with the women's situation, you feel like this is going to be a proxy that's going to be the thing that's going to get you there, which I think fuels even more of those assholes doing more stuff like that and targeting people like that.
That's a huge part of it. That's the other big stat. Like, if you think of the status symbols in videos, it's cars, money, and women.
Yeah, of course.
It's like those are the three things.
And the cars and the money are only get the women. So,
yeah. That's again why I hate the young like millionaire or whatever, like flashed around as if that's achievable, is because it sets a precedent for this is what's expected. This is a normal thing to expect. Because look, sure, are there young millionaires? Yeah, most of them aren't on YouTube, but sure, they exist out there, but they're just the vast minority. And if you're thinking about building success in a way that is replicable, you talk about poker, right?
Yeah,
you can win 2-7 mismatched suits.
Right.
It's just almost never going to happen. And when you think about playing a hand, you want to give yourself the best possible odds. And so when people are giving them, thinking about planning their life track, trying to get to a millionaire, by your 20s is sort of, especially multimillionaire, is sort of like trying to win with 2-7 mismatched. It's like, why don't you play the old tried and true. Why don't you wait till you got some faces and aces?
Yeah, poker is super not sexy if you're actually making money at it. Honestly, it's the least sexy thing ever.
It's
If you're
mechanical,
actually,
right? It's pretty
yes, yeah,
mechanical.
yeah, it's super not what it's portrayed as. But it's funny, that made me think of something. Is a lot of people think that people who are millionaires or multimillionaires or whatever, that they're out there balling, and I think there's a really interesting thing that I listened to an interview with Papa John, and he talked about this was on H3. If anybody wants to go listen to it, I'm sure you know who he is. But
Papa
when
bless.
he, yeah, bless. When he talked to them, he told them that when they went public, when they IPO'd, he had $5,000 in his bank account. So just for context, now a lot of people don't know what IPOing is. That's
so
initial public offering. So they went public.
Right.
This guy went from having $5,000 in his personal bank account to being probably a multi-hundred millionaire. I would say, at least, I don't know what they on the IPO'd or whatever, but you figure it's got to be 100 million or 200 million is what their total valuation was, or something like that. Overnight. Literally overnight, he went from a guy who had $5,000 in his bank account. On paper, he was worth a bunch of money. He probably had some assets, probably a good amount. He's probably a millionaire at that point in assets, I'm sure. But then he went to a 100 millionaire overnight and probably had limitless amounts of cash that he could get if he wanted to, right?
Right.
And that's what most people, the problem is, they look at the finish line, right? That's the problem with all of this shit, is everybody looks at the finish line. And they never look at the journey. What the dude who started Starbucks wasn't he like 60 or something when he started Starbucks?
Oh gosh, Schultz.
Howard Schultz.
I don't know. I know he had tried a lot of stuff before he had become a like the owner of Starbucks. I think he was a little younger than that, but I think he was older.
Yeah, he was not young by any means.
Right.
He certainly wasn't 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the premise of that is always a tough situation. So certainly funneling people towards things like trades are a good option. Obviously, if you are somebody who is a college dropout, even, coding is something. I think you mentioned your brother's in software. Is that right? At some point?
Yeah. He does software.
Coding obviously is a lot of big companies now are removing college requirements for coders because it's doesn't translate to a useful skill for people who code, right?
Yeah. It's just more like, can you do it or can't you do it? I mean, it's like a very black or white kind of thing with like kind of harder skills like that. College is sort of becoming interestingly, people are really challenging the whole premise of college. Like how much is it needed? And for exactly what jobs is it needed? Yeah. And otherwise, why would you go?
I think we'll end up with engineers, doctors, those type of people going to college. But a lot of the other general business stuff is going to be shifting. So like the business major, the marketing major, this major, the majors that, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous to think that a teacher who teaches marketing, who doesn't own a fucking business and doesn't market anything,
may never have run a Facebook ad in his life,
his entire life, knows anything about marketing to teach people other than a very basic 101 course. It's ridiculous. I mean, it really is. And the fact that that's happening at every level of higher education is just absurd. So yes, obviously, again, I don't want to go off on the tangent of higher education because I'm not, the landscape for sure is shifting. That's what it's going to look like is hard to say, but
I just think if like a lot of people think that, online education is just sort of going to take over. And if it does, then we need to get all the hucksters and liars and opportunists out, or at least call them out when they're taking so much of the airtime, because I feel like they're giving a real bad name to paid courses. In principle, am I against paid courses? No. Nowadays, though, when I see a paid course, I immediately have a gut-wrenching like, oh, great, here we go again. Here's the same ClickFunnels template. Here's the same whatever. And obviously not everyone who does it is a scammer, but the well has just been totally poisoned by these people.
Yeah, I mean, again, that guy, the home mechanic, and I, because we have such a similar background, we've talked about doing some type of setup at some point many years ago. We talk about a lot of different things, but never have time for even half of them. But that's something that we've talked about, and it's tough. Obviously, if I did it, I would want to make sure I'm delivering 100% of the value of what it is, but it also wouldn't be cheap, because for us to put together what we believe to be a robust curriculum that's actually valuable,
yeah,
it's going to be serious time commitment to even think about that. Now, whether it ever happens, I don't know, probably not, but it could. I think there's a lot of problems with online content. While I think it's beneficial, I also think there's almost no standard and no vetting process.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
So
yeah.
How do you know that the thing you're doing, unless it's somebody who already has a proven track record, which the problem is, you talk about Dan Locke, he has a big YouTube following, and he's the biggest shit face there is.
So here's the blackest pill that you will swallow about the marketing stuff, is that you can fake nearly almost all social proof required to build a credible looking thing. You can get the Forbes articles. You can get Yahoo Finance to write about you. You can get MarketWatch to write about you. You can get all the features and all the successful YouTube channels. Jubilee will feature you as a millionaire. You can get all these people to feature you as a successful entrepreneur, having proven absolutely nothing. And then by making money through your paid course, now you are a millionaire. And so now you can actually show that, oh yeah, I of course I have $1 million, whatever.
It's pretty wild to me how much money a lot of these guys make. I mean, it's crazy. And
you're leaving them a lot of money on the table. And
I know
there's a certain level of you can all write it off as, they won't make as much money in the long term, but I don't even know if that's true.
I don't know if it's true either.
They make such ridiculous amounts. I know people
pure profit. They have no cost. So if we as a business make $5 million, I have a shitload of costs related to that, especially because we're selling a product, not a service. So we have hard costs in everything that we sell.
Right.
They have zero.
Yeah.
I could run ads towards people in my specific area and just make it targeted and charge them $100 a month to be a part of a mastermind group. And I actually think I could deliver value to them, but I still don't feel good about actually doing that. I actually would try to deliver value to them, but I think the problem is that when you're a young person who's paying somebody like that, your ambition is to emulate them and do your own thing and be your own business and, whatever. Same thing with people who fall into MLM, and they're kind of almost the same people, right? Is the MLM, like if you call something your business and it's their business, it's not your business. I don't give a shit about what you say. It's not your business.
Dude, I swear people are moving from MLMs to the course. It is the same people. Yeah, I mean, it is straight up the same people. Yeah.
Same demo, which is gross because everybody's fucking them. They're getting fucked from every angle.
Yeah, they are. They really are. And it's like, oh man, trying to break these people out of it is tough sometimes, because there are sort of two people who fall for this. There's the type that falls for it once and will never fall for it again. They've learned their lesson and they're done with courses. And then there's like sort of the professional sheep. They is constantly sort of falling for, and like my goal is to try to wake that person up to like, oh no, it's not just this guy, it's all of them.
Right.
But I saw in this I think I might have told this story before, just stop me if you've heard it. I made this video about this MLM called FutureNet. Okay,
I did see that video.
Okay,
it's actually really well. That was a really good video.
Yeah. There was this guy in the FutureNet video who I didn't talk about this. He was one of the victims, and he's telling the group, "Oh, I don't think we're going to get refunds back." And everyone goes, "Why? How do you know?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I've been a part of an international crypto scheme before, and both the crypto and non-crypto international schemes ever got me my money back." In other words, to be qualified to say this, he had to
fell for two of them.
At least two international crypto and non-crypto MLM schemes. It's so like weirdly specific. So it's like this guy just falls for this stuff all the time. And he finds himself in the exact same position, also saying, well, I guess I'm not going to get my money back. So I don't know how to reach those people, but I think there are people that are just unreachable. They just believe in the grind. They believe in the pot of gold so much, or they're so desperate that they're going to go for it no matter what. But I do know from a lot of things that these types of conversations do end up helping people. I know they do. They must.
I think it all stems that what you just said the pot of gold thing made me think of, I think the biggest problem is it all stems from the fact that people think that getting rich is easy. And it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And period. And if you don't start rich, getting rich is pretty fucking hard. Period. You can do it. You can do it. In America, we have the American dream. It's legit. Contrary to what some people may say, it's there. You can do it. Does it mean that you're going to? I think the problem that I've seen is that if you want to do that, it means that your life is going to look unlike anybody else's life who looks like you. When I say that, what I mean is, if you're middle class, if you want to be rich,
you can't be the guys on the block.
The behavior that you have on a day-to-day basis has to look so drastically different than everybody else, which means every time people are having fun, every time people are going to parties, every time people are sleeping, every time people are just hanging out, going out in the lake or in a pool or whatever, that's not the time where you're doing that thing. And the problem is that is not very attractive to be the person who you essentially create yourself as a social outcast, because you put yourself outside of this group. Because when most people look at my behavior who know me within my circle, they think that I'm fucking crazy. They think something's wrong with me.
How much are you working, Paul?
Okay. All right, let's talk about it. So
let's talk about it.
I don't really monitor my hours, but as a rough idea, I have 3 kids. So, I have to balance kind of the work home life thing. My wife stays at home, so that's obviously fortunate in that way that I don't have to worry about that. But I work on Mondays, for example. Tonight, we're doing this on a Monday night. I usually work late on Monday and usually late another night. When I work late, I work very late. So my late night is I come in 8:30, 9 o'clock most days. I work until on my late nights, midnight, 1, 2 a.m. And that's 2 days a week. The other days I work usually until about 6 to 7 o'clock. Usually try to be before 6:30, otherwise my wife gets fucking pissed. But that's part of the deal. And then I work usually some part of Sunday, whatever that looks like.
So nearly constantly working.
Yeah. So Saturday is my day off. I take that off to spend with my family. But the other days, I'm working. So that's what my life looks like now. And the position I'm in now, I have enough employees that if I really chose to, I could go on cruise control. But I have to, by making that choice, if I decide to go on cruise control, which I'm not, I both hamper my growth and the opportunity that my employees have for growth, because that means I'm not creating more opportunities for them.
Yes. They don't have the same vision.
We don't grow. They can't grow, right?
Right. That's always interesting to me. Building a company is you really take on a lot of responsibility with your employees. Like
if you care about them. If you care about them, yeah.
Yeah. And I think you should. I mean, I think I think maybe instinctively a lot of people, when you take on an employee, you realize sort of, especially if you're paying them a full-time income, that like, I'm like the source of this guy's bread, and whether he gets paid sort of what he deserves and he's got chances to move up is sort of all up to me.
Right.
To keep growing my business. With that in mind, let's talk about COVID and then we'll sort of start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Obviously COVID's affected a lot of people, and I've kind of gone into overdrive with this whole COVID thing, not only because I'm sort of bored, but also because the amount of scams that have been going on now
is going up.
it's going up. Well, just think about it. People are
Yeah,
home.
I guess
So
so.
many people are out of work.
They're looking to make money
They're
online,
looking to
probably.
make money online. They've got stimulus check incomes,
Mm-hmm.
so disposable income. Well, obviously, a lot of them are just spending it right away on rent and food. But these marketers are like trying to get them, while they're sort of vulnerable. And so I'm sort of taking extra special care to try to produce more of this stuff. But from a business perspective, how has COVID affected you? And where do you stand here? Because there's a lot of stances from people who don't own businesses. We've heard from them. As a business owner, how do you think about COVID?
So for us as a business, we fortunately have not been drastically affected. E-commerce is one of those things in this situation that you're kind of bulletproof in the sense that as long as the economy doesn't completely fall apart, and even in our world, if the economy, we kind of have a weird mix of business. We have kind of the repair maintenance side of the things we do, but also then the modification upgrade part of the things we sell. So if the economy completely comes unglued, obviously people are going to be doing more fixing and less modifying. And so that could affect our business. But overall, we haven't been affected at this point. Now, our shop side, because it's a more local business, was initially impacted a little bit, but then overall it seems to kind of, once things loosened up, okay. Now, that's me. Now, the people, obviously businesses like frankly, every business, but restaurants and those type of people are in a bad way. Like people, the one thing that I've seen as part of the discussion about business is like, oh, they're a big business, they can handle it. People are like, oh yeah, they're fine, they're big, whatever. People don't realize there are businesses. If you're a big business, that means you have big expenses. And if you take a zero revenue, you can't afford your expenses. That us as a business, we have a bunch of employees, we have a monthly nut to cover, and it's not a small number. And if we had to go with zero revenue and not change our expenses, I don't know. I mean, we could do it for a while, but not that long. Most businesses cannot make it long periods of time with zero revenue.
Yeah, and I think most people live under the assumption that, yeah, big business, you have giant stockpiles of cash. And if you're Apple,
yeah,
you do.
Well, I was going to say that Apple's probably the only example of a company that has insane amounts of cash.
All the other companies, they're running these like lean models of like, it's just what people were doing for the longest time. We run super lean models of growth. And go ahead.
That's how you have to operate to be competitive in most businesses.
Right.
Especially, e-commerce certainly is one of them, but like you think about even restaurants and those businesses, they run really lean margins. They're running, 10 points. That's their margin on average, something in that range.
Right. So they go, I'm thinking of several businesses in my area that like local businesses that I'm probably never going to see them open again. They're done.
I would be surprised if most businesses could make it 2 months. A lot of smaller businesses could make it 2 months with zero revenue with the same expenses. Now, a lot of these places furloughed employees, and so their nut was not the same. So it's not a one-to-one, but I know companies. I know a company that has a division that has 450 employees. Their payroll was $1.7 million. Like how many months, how many payrolls can you run at $1.7 million before you run out of money?
Probably not many.
Not many. Yeah, not many. Yeah.
What do you think about, there's this concept of bulletproofing your income revenue streams. And by that, I mean sort of diversifying. Obviously, you did this early on when you were a tech and you just had this kind of like regular job you're working, and you go, okay, now I'm going to go into the e-commerce space. Then you're going to go into the store space. Did you intentionally sort of do that? Do you think about diversifying your strategy, or is it something you've just kind of naturally done as your interests have grown into this and that and the other?
Yeah. I think that's actually leads me to an interesting thought. That I remember thinking when I was young that everybody else knew the path, right? Like everybody else knows the things that they're going to do to get where they got to go, or where they want to go.
Right. I always think that too.
And the truth is, I didn't. Like looking back, if you look back at my history, you can see like, okay, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. And that's how I landed where I am today. But that's Monday morning quarterback, right? Like at the time, that's not what I was thinking. It was
You were just
the
like,
thing that I thought was the best idea for me to do at the time, right? I thought it was the best choice to make at the time I was making it. Now, that's true for business too, sometimes that turns out to be wrong.
right.
But yeah, I think that I think diversifying is smart? Yes, because it gives you a more robust uh, complete person that you end up being. That means you have more marketable skills, right? If my business fails tomorrow drastically, which we have no reason to believe that's going to be the case, but if it did, I could go work on cars for a living if I chose to. I could go be a content creator for a living. I could go be a video producer for a living because I've done all of these things that allow me the expertise to do those things, right?
Right. Right. Yes.
So
Interesting.
that's I think I'm fortunate in that way, and I'd recommend if you have the ability to do that to do that. But I also a lot of these things I was learning or investing my energy into while I was doing other things, and I think that's the problem. Is I hear all these guys you've talked to who talk about quitting their job after 2 fucking weeks of taking some stupid fucking course, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like my so good example, YouTuber, the Hum Mechanic. Um, he's a friend of mine. I know because we talk about it. He didn't quit his job, his full time job, until his YouTube revenue was matching what his income was, and I think it was actually exceeding it before he got there.
Wow.
So he didn't just like up and quit his fucking job and
Go
like
screw up,
hope this
boys. I'm going to
YouTube thing
YouTube.
works out. Like, golly gee, hope I don't fail. And so because of that, those are the stories that I think are more relevant to show people making a smart transition instead of just taking a leap. Now, for me, I had a business partner, so I had backing when I started a business, but I would have never done that otherwise. Right? When I started my business, I had a 6-month-old baby. My firstborn was 6 months old.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like that's by many people's accounts, that's crazy. Now, luckily, it worked out. Otherwise, we might be telling a different story. But
Sure.
yeah. So, but his example, I think, is the best one to show. He just didn't transition and throw it away and like, oh, hey, it looks like this might make me money. Let me throw it away.
How long did it take you before you were profitable in your business?
I would say we broke even pretty quickly. And we started out on Amazon and eBay because it's the quickest way to get revenue without having a brand. Because even though I came from the space and I had you could call it a name in the space, nobody followed me. Nobody followed me from the things, when I say nobody, a handful of people did maybe.
Yeah, nothing meaningful. Yeah.
Nothing meaningful translated over to a business that creates an income that you can sustain on.
Right.
So it pretty quick within the first year, we were about break even. But then as you do that, you start growing, you start adding more expenses. Now the requirements to earn more money gets higher. More people you add, the more expenses. And then, so for me, the way I've done it and the way I've grown is we reinvest. We accept that we're not making a huge amount of money, paying back. We need to pay back to the investments we have, investing in other assets like the property we bought for the business we have, that type of stuff. But I'm not going on vacations balling out. Like that's not been a part of my process, and that's a not sexy choice to make. But yeah, it's part of the deal.
But that's your point about doing things, if you want to become rich, doing things that differently from everybody else. Everybody else is going on vacations.
Yeah. How about this? I've never given myself a raise.
That's crazy.
8 years. I've never given myself a raise.
Do you have a fixed income?
I pay myself a salary.
Yourself?
Yeah, I pay myself a salary, but I've never given myself a raise.
Why? You don't think you deserve one?
Because I never felt like the cash flow was in a place where I thought that was the best choice to make. And I didn't need it personally.
So
I'm doing fine financially, personally.
I feel like that like slight disinterest in like making immediate profits and like, oh, I got to pay myself out, pay myself out. That obviously has been very successful for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way you grow a business. Reality, again, to the Papa John thing,
Yeah.
right?
Right. The reality is very different from what you see or you hear.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about these. There's what's that dude with the young millionaire guy who talks about having like 20-cent coffee and bullshit. I think he goes to an extreme. I don't live my
Oh,
life like
Graham
that.
Stephan. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
He
Yeah,
makes good content, and
yeah,
I
he
think he
does.
makes a lot of really interesting points that are helpful to calibrate for people.
Right.
To me, I live my life. I try to live as easy of a life. I like to be inconvenient. I don't like to be inconvenienced. That's the way I live my life. But other than that, I am not trying to be rich or live a very rich lifestyle. Do I at some point expect that? Probably, but it's not necessary at this point.
Yeah, I think there's like understanding that you don't need to be rich to be happy, and then like just like living just normally. And there's also just like what I consider to be slightly dumb minimalism. I mean, I like Graham Stephan's content, and I'm sure he probably wouldn't say, he would say the coffee's thing's probably some kind of a maybe he really believes that coffee should only be 20 cents, but like
it's a gimmick or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know, but no, I agree. I think you can just live a comfortable life, and that's fine. I think we're getting to the wrapping up point here. I think we've covered a lot of bases. I'm fascinated. I can't get my head out of this idea that like you haven't paid yourself a raise, and how different that is from how much I see out there, and just sort of how you're calibrating yourself for the future. So maybe walk me through, if you're a young kid right now, you could talk to yourself when you were 20, 18, 22. I don't know when that sort of pivotal age for you exactly was, but what would you say about owning a business? A lot of people want to own businesses, or entrepreneurship, or just the realities of what you're about to go through to get to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is step A, definitely acquire skills first. That would be the first thing. The second thing, I don't think most people are cut out for this. I don't think most people are cut out for it. I don't think they should want to. It's not for most people. If you're not an obsessed person who has things wrong with the way your mind works, you're probably not a good fit.
I love that you say that, because something that I talked to my wife about a lot is because obviously this YouTube channel, we've kind of turned it into a business over time.
Yeah.
And something I tell her all the time is like, man, entrepreneurship is such like a honeypot trap for a lot of people, because people think they're getting into it to lay on the beach. It's so stupid. It's like
it's legitimately the complete opposite. It couldn't be further from the truth.
It's so dumb. If you want an easy life, go find a cushy 9 to 5.
Yes.
There are hard 9 to 5s out there.
Yes,
but
100%.
you can find an easy 9 to 5.
You'll get your 2 weeks, 3 weeks vacation. You can hang out. You can do your shit. You can be on every softball team and hang out with your friends and don't miss any parties and do all the stuff. And that's fine. To me, it really just a matter of what you want to get out of your situation. And whether it's, I think being rich is the least sexy part about entrepreneurship. To me, if you're getting into it to be rich, stop what you're doing. You've made a terrible mistake. You're going the wrong way. You want to do that? You want to be rich? Go work on Wall Street.
Yeah, you can get really rich that fast.
Yeah. You'll be a dirtbag. You'll be doing blow off a hooker's ass and, whatever. Live a lifestyle that most people don't want to live, but that's fine. Like, that's the lifestyle that those guys live. It's why they burn out quick. I think a lot of people who appear to be rich, I think the problem is most people don't know enough very rich people to know very unhappy rich people.
Wow. That's sort of profound. Yeah. I don't think most people know rich people, and they think that being rich will solve their problems, because they look at their life. They say, why am I unhappy? Well, it's uncomfortable for me right now with how poor I am.
Right.
Or I wish I could have
I
a
don't
car.
discredit the idea that being poor sucks.
Right. But we're talking about middle class or rich, because most people
Yes.
have the option to become middle class at some point in their life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Yep.
and rich is just, to get rich is a grind. It is an uphill battle for those of us who are not blessed to have the genetic gift of rich parents.
Right. Yeah. I don't have rich parents.
Neither do
Part
I.
of the deal.
Yeah. I think that's really well said. I'm really happy we sort of arrived here, because I think it's a good place to end, is really take a look, for those of you watching right now who still made it this far, at why you're getting into this. What is your core reason for wanting to get rich? Is it because you want to grow something? Is it because you want to make an impact in the world? You want to fill a hole in a market you saw, or something like that? Or is it just because you want to get rich because you think getting rich will get you happy and it'll get you your, Lambo that you're never going to drive?
Yep. True story.
Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on. I really appreciate having you, lending your experience, and I look forward to what you do in the future, your podcast and all your endeavors. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.